Hello and welcome to People and Profit, where we look at how business shapes our world. I'm Marcus Carlson. Coming up, the Geneva Motor Show kicks off on an upbeat note. We ask whether electric cars will provide another spark to sales. Is Super Mario about to launch a helicopter rescue of the eurozone? The European Central Bank and its chief are set for yet another decisive meeting. Plus, Swipe and Shop will tell you about the unmanned corner shop in Sweden that's controlled by smartphone. First up, though, the Geneva Motor Show is one of the premier events in the diary of the European auto industry. And it kicked off this year on an upbeat note. Car sales in the European Union grew by 9% last year, and 2016 is also off to a strong start, with French and German sales in February growing by 13% and 12% respectively. Electric vehicles are beating this trend, accelerating even faster than the rest of the market. And car makers are betting big, even as petrol prices have dropped.
We've got very strong order bank for the new model, and we're looking forward to that. And one thing we've got to remember, obviously people talk about low oil prices, but cheap oil doesn't pollute any less than expensive oil. And I think in order for society and administrations to achieve its overall emissions, we need alternative fuels, alternative fuel-driven vehicles, and the Nissan Leaf is a good example of that.
The question remains, though, whether or not people are willing to spend their hard-earned cash on an electric car. Stephen Carroll has been looking at the figures. Stephen.
Marcus, this is a market that's growing fast. In Europe, sales more than doubled last year of electric cars to almost 190,000. The United States did see a small fall in 2015, but there was a big jump there the year before. Globally, over 500,000 electric cars were sold last year, up over 40%. To put that in perspective, though, last year nearly 83 million cars were sold globally. Electric cars made up less than 0.1%. Cost is a big factor in that. Let's look at the 4 best-selling electric cars in the United States last year. The prices vary widely, up to $75,000 for Tesla's Model S. Even with the tax breaks that are offered in many countries, these cars are still 30 to 50% more expensive than their petrol-fueled rivals. With the price at the pump so low, it's perhaps not surprising that electric cars are still a relatively niche product. Car makers say that will have to change over time when oil begins to climb again. A report by Bloomberg has projected that by 2040, electric cars will make up 35% of the market. The average price will fall to around $22,000, helped by cheaper batteries, and that's a price fall that's already begun. But that report also says this development won't happen by itself. 4 things are needed. First, governments must encourage people to buy electric cars using tax or other incentives. Manufacturers, too, will have to accept lower profit margins, while customers need to be prepared to pay more. The key driver to bring costs down will be cheaper batteries, though, that last longer. Marcus.
Thank you very much indeed, Stephen. We're going to stay in the car sector now, because while European car sales overall may be up, further east, the Russian car sector is suffering. After years of strong growth, it's been hit by lower oil prices and Western sanctions, and car workers are feeling the pinch.
Lenin's childhood hometown is in the red. Ulyanovsk relies heavily on the local car industry, but with car sales down by 36% in 2015, the local automaker UAZ is doing everything to survive, including selling old models. Same story in Togliatti, where Avtovaz, Russia's biggest manufacturer, lost $930 million in 2015. Those who've managed to keep their jobs often don't get full salaries.
People are frightened to say even a single word. I can't remember that happening before. They can pay less money. People will agree to any wage.
Workers who do protest say wage cuts are not the only problem. Some say factories save money on maintenance and that accidents have multiplied.
We attended protests in August, September and November, but I doubt it can really have an effect on the situation in any way.
The crisis isn't new. Over the past 6 years, the company, controlled by French-Japanese car alliance Renault-Nissan, fired half of its employees. But 2015 was particularly tough. Russia has faced sanctions due to its role in the Ukrainian war. It suffered from the slump of oil prices, its main export, and the ruble is weak. But not all Russians are staying away from car dealers. In fact, the richest ones are buying more cars, luxury cars. Among them, Porsche and Rolls-Royce have made record sales in Russia last year.
The European Central Bank has pledged to do whatever it takes to save the euro. Last year, its president Mario Draghi announced what was then billed as a bazooka, a €1.5 trillion stimulus program. But the eurozone economy is still struggling, and Draghi now says he's ready to think again. That's raised speculation of more action when the ECB wraps up a meeting next Thursday. But is there any ammunition left? Price stability is the ECB's main preoccupation. It wants inflation to rise by around 2% every year, but price increases have remained stubbornly low, even falling slightly in February. That might sound great for consumers, but it's fueling fears of a deflationary spiral and economic slump. For more now on the choices ahead for the ECB, we can turn to Gilles Moec. He's Chief European Economist at Bank of America Merrill Lynch, and he's with us from London. Now, Gilles, inflation in the eurozone is low because we have seen oil prices come tumbling down in the past year. Seeing that, is low inflation or deflation really a problem in the eurozone? Isn't low oil a good thing for the European consumer, for instance?
Yeah, it definitely is a good thing for European consumers, but the weakness in inflation is no longer just about oil. Actually, in the latest batch of figures we've had, we've seen that underlying inflation, which is inflation corrected for or excluding energy and food, is actually decelerating as well, quite nastily. The market was expecting 1% year on year. We are only 0.7%. And when you look at the components, it's just about everything that is now going in the wrong direction, including services. And services really reflect the intrinsic workings of the European economy. So if we cannot generate any price pressure in what is the core, in what is the center of our economy, it really means that it's going to be very, very hard for the European Central Bank to reach its target to bring it back to 2%.
We have seen the European Central Bank take a number of measures in order to boost inflation, including last year's announcement of this €1 trillion stimulus program. Why hasn't this helped, this QE program as it's known, or quantitative easing?
Well, first of all, it has always been a bit of a shot in the dark for the European Central Bank, because we are in unconventional territory. We've had a number of negative shocks in the meantime. Chinese growth is definitely not as strong as what most people expected. US growth is definitely softer than people were expecting, which means that we are fighting also with negative global forces on inflation, which is having an impact on our own inflation domestically. So they have to recalibrate almost in real time their effort, their QE program, to make it sure that it's still commensurate with the economic outlook that we have.
What could the ECB do then? Does the ECB have any cards left up its sleeve, so to speak? Could it do more?
They can do more, and I think that they have to do more, but they have to be credible. And one of the issues that we've had lately is that every time the ECB has said, yes, we will do more, we'll buy for longer, and we could buy faster, the market has been in two minds about it, because they've always thought that maybe there would not be enough assets available in the market for the ECB to buy. It's not just enough to say, yes, we're going to move from 60 to 70, or we're going to buy until September 17 instead of March. They also have to prove to investors that they can actually deliver, that they can buy this amount of assets. So there are a lot of technical tweaks that they could try. Draghi said in January that no technical constraint would stand in the way of the ECB. I think it was a very important message. So what I guess we'll have next week is an announcement of beefing up the current program with some technical tweaks to make it to make it work better in terms of implementation.
Gilles Moec, thank you very much indeed. Next to a story for anyone who's run out of milk late at night. A businessman in Sweden has developed what could be a convenient way to stock the fridge out of hours. He's opened a 24/7 self-service corner store. All you need is a smartphone to get inside and start shopping. Olivia Zalazar-Winspe has the details.
It's a common conundrum. The larder's bare, but the shops are shut or too far away. Robert Eliasson found himself in that very situation. And from despair was born a business idea. What if he could access a shop where he'd serve himself?
I was alone with my kid for one of the first times when he was 7 months old. And I dropped the last canister of food. And I kind of panicked, so I went in the car to get together with the screaming child. And I had to go to the nearest city, which is 20 minutes away from here, because it was late at night. So during that trip, I decided I want this kind of store closer.
This small village in Sweden's now cutting out the middleman. Customers can get into Robert's shop by using an application on their phones, which unlocks the door. Then they scan the barcodes on products, which are added to their monthly tab. The bill's paid via the app. In a community that's seen the number of local shops dwindle over the years, it's a welcome alternative.
The advantages, I think, is it's open 24/7, and for me, when I get here, I have no queues, and I get in, get out very quick, and it's very convenient.
Robert admits that much of the concept hinges on trust, but he does have systems in place to discourage shoplifting.
There is the issue of theft, of course. I know who's in the store, but I also have cameras looking at the shelves, and it can actually pick up when someone takes an item from the shelf. It knows who picked it up, and when they picked it up, and what they picked up.
Another challenge is the profit margin. In this rural community, there's a limited pool of customers, but with no overheads for staff. This unmanned shop could well balance the books and provide a model for a very 21st century communal store cupboard.
We are going to close up People and Profit, but France 24 is always open, so stay with us. If you have any comments or questions about the stories that we've covered, connect with us on Facebook or tweet me at MarcusF24. Thank you for watching.